So your teams are drowning in customer data. They have enough of it, but what to do about it is really a big problem. It's not because it's a data problem itself, it's an organizing problem because the data typically doesn't map to each other or is not telling the whole story. And another dashboard isn't going to fix this because you might have a semantic layer in place that tells you, okay, here's how what this data means, and this is actually like how it's structured. But there's a deeper rooted problem because it is such different data that you're collecting. In this video, I'm going to show you how to pinpoint exactly where your customer program is breaking down and to get everyone from customer service to the executives aligned on what to do about it. And the fix I'm proposing is actually structural, and you get a glimpse into how my mind works. So I've put together a framework on how to actually organize the data. The framework has 5 levels, and it's basically using simple language to help you understand what it means. And this is a situation that every customer-facing organization finds itself in. You got 3 big streams of activities happening at any given moment. To simplify, you got the signals, right? The qualitative noise coming in from customers every day. Whether you record a call with an agent, or you're sending a survey, or you're doing primary research, or some customer is saying something online about your brand. Then you've got the KPIs, right? The metrics that each team is measured against. And all these teams have their initiatives, the projects, the bets. Everyone is investing in different things to grow the business, to protect the business, to basically make sure that the cost is coming down and that we are all working in unison. Now, in most companies, these 3 streams are owned by very different teams. They sit in different tools and they use completely different language. Okay, marketing has their funnel metrics, product has their adoption data, CS has their health scores, support has their ticket volumes. And everyone's working really hard, but no one can really tell if they're working on the right things because there's no shared structure connecting it all. There's no meaning. There are no relationships between those data by default. And that is actually a different way to think about the data. My framework is actually, in simple terms, having 5 layers that you need to bring together, or you can think of bringing together, so it actually makes a system. And the journey is the organizing principle, but I'll get to that in a second, because let's first start with evidence. All right, this is where the framework starts. Like level 1 is what I call your evidence layer. And this is everything your customers are saying. At least like this is what they're saying about how they're feeling, about what they're frustrated about what their experience is like, right? Customer feedback, support tickets, usage data, formal research, verbatims, the whole qualitative picture that you're capturing. And most companies have plenty of this data. The problem is in volume. It's the evidence sits in different silos. Okay, the supports team sees the tickets, handles the calls. The research team is designed around initiatives and actually capturing specific pieces. Then the CX team owns the verbatims coming in from surveys. And product is actually more interesting in feedback and usage data. But nobody is actually seeing this as one body of evidence about the customer and about a specific segment of the customer, about a specific persona of the customer. So the first move is to acknowledge this, that you have a lot of raw material and that it is raw material, right? It's the voice of customer in all its messy forms. And it needs to be fed into something bigger for just one team to capture their own version of that. So that's like the first layer. That's the evidence. Now, what they say is not what they do, right? There's a whole idea of like people say what they do, but they don't do what they say. So you need the measurement as well, right? So we understand like the key distinction. Level 1 is what they say. Level 2 in my framework is what they actually do. And this is your KPIs. And here you also want to start mapping them to like experience, to journey stage. Net revenue retention, adoption rates, customer satisfaction scores, your customer health score. So these are big metrics, but you can also think about smaller metrics, like are people going from step A to step B? What's the conversion rate like? What is the volume of a journey? How many people are actually in what we call this experience right now, this week, this month, and how is that volume changing? Did they actually make the purchase or did they drop out? Here's where most organizations get stuck, right? They got level 1 evidence over here and then level 2 measurements over there, and they're disconnected. You hear a customer saying like onboarding is confusing in your support tickets, but you've got no easy way to see whether that connects to drop in your adoption KPI for that same stage. The data is there. the dots just aren't joined. And the product team will have an opinion about it, and the customer service team will have an opinion about it, but they are not able to tell if they see the things from the same way or the same direction. So this is where it gets interesting. If you think about the journey, the customer journey, going through the different phases, going through the different steps as the backbone, that's actually the heart of my framework. So the thing is that joins the dots is the customer journey itself, because that's the closest thing you can get to the customer reality. What is like the designed experience you had? What is the perceived experience they had? And how does that meet in the middle? So if we look at the example of like booking a trip, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a SaaS company, a travel brand, a bank, healthcare provider, your customer is on a journey with you. They might not know it, but it's an expression that you are about to see why it's so useful, right? They're discovering you, they're evaluating you, they're deciding to buy. They probably have a whole set of potential product solutions to do, and they ultimately choose you, right? And then they're onboarding, they're adopting, and eventually expanding or renewing. Wonderful. That sequence is the spine, right? That's like the journey framework. That's the journey that is organizing, but it's too broad, it's too generic. So instead of asking like what marketing cares about or what product cares about, you ask what's happening in the actual booking stage. What's happening when people are heading out? What is happening when they come back? When they want to buy an additional bag after they've purchased the ticket, right? There's a whole team that does baggage handling, but in the booking experience, it's just a tiny piece of the whole experience. So suddenly, like that journey framework becomes an organizing principle for lower level journeys that all sit and tie the data together. Because if you have your level 1 evidence and your level 2 measurements, all of a sudden they have a place to live. And if you pin every signal, every KPI, every initiative to a specific moment in the customer experience, all of a sudden you're creating a new way of deriving meaning from that data. That's the unlock. That's the shift. Everything else flows from this. Okay, so before that, we may have a semantic understanding of the data. How does the data relate to each other? What does this KPI mean? In what database is it stored? Now, all of a sudden, you're creating meaning from the relationships of that data. How are specific feedback that is coming in relating to the KPI that we're measuring? And are we actually putting an initiative in place? So that brings us, once this journey framework is in place, to the third level, which is the meaning level, right? Once the journey backbone is in place, level 3 starts to emerge. The context is defined, right? Your decisions are anchored to a specific customer moment, and then the trade-offs can become visible because you can see which stage is suffering, which is thriving from 2 angles, right? Your metrics can say something is down, but the overall experience, there's no feedback indicating that something is wrong, right? In the Lufthansa experience that I talked about, this was the case. Baggage booking revenue was down. No feedback was actually able to understand or help you understand what was actually going on, because the team that measured the KPI in their dashboard saw the metric was going down. But if they looked at the broader booking experience and there was a promotion launch somewhere by another team where an additional bag was included, the overall baggage booking was up and customers didn't perceive it as a problem. So critically, you start surfacing the why behind your data when you have this new positioning in place. And therefore, you might have said, like, CSAT dropped this quarter. It's a number. It's not very useful. Now you can say, like, it dropped specifically when people were buying an additional bag and they couldn't, right? Our support tickets at that stage tripled, what suggests a recent product change broke something for our customers in week 2. That's a story, and now all of a sudden you're connecting the dots across typically different teams that are measuring different teams, but the meaning is captured in that specific step aligned with the customer journey. And that is something you can actually act on, which I think is fascinating. Which brings us to level 4. So you now have got meaning, and then all of a sudden you can unlock this team, cross-team connection. Your teams have shared language. They're all talking about the same journey stages, the same journey steps. They've got this aligned priorities because they can all see where the bigger gaps are. And maybe not by default they're connected and the teams can stay the same. It's not like, oh, we have to break the silos, we have to make the teams journey teams. That's a big mistake I'm seeing many organizations make. No. You got to invest in the meaning layer so that you can actually increase the cross-team collaboration. Because when teams are mobilized towards the same outcome, let's get additional baggage booking up, we're all striving to the same KPI that sits typically like very high in the metric tree. It's like, okay, revenue from baggage booking. And then you realize like there's different moments in the customer experience where different teams are collaborating to actually make that possible. But if they do it from their own angles, they might ship solutions that are counterintuitive to one another. But if you look at the customer journey, where the moments are when people are actually buying an additional bag or wanting to add an additional bag to their booking, that's when we show up together. So it doesn't become like an abstract departmental or team KPI. It's actually a shared goal that we can have in different moments of the experience. And this is the part that almost is impossible to achieve through reorganizations, all hands meetings, or like your new OKR templates for the quarter or the year. You can't will alignment into existence, is my experience. But when everyone is looking at the same journey, alignment kind of happens by default because we're all speaking the same language. There's one customer experience that we're looking at, there's one journey that we align against, and now everyone is looking at it together. We can still have our own priorities, we can still have our own initiatives, but if we're working in unison against that specific moment or like that overall journey, all of a sudden we have natural alignment. And this is interesting because then we can go to the final level, which is actually like explaining business impact through our collective action, right? Revenue growth, because you're investing in the moments that actually move your customers forward. Retention is actually moving because you're proactively closing the gaps that cause churn, right? It's not like, customer success is measuring it, but product needs to do something about it and marketing isn't selling the right thing. No, it's actually collectively looking at, hey, what is a signal that actually is indicative of potential churn in the future? And how do we tie our initiatives against that specific moment in the customer experience? Because while your competitors are still arguing about whether the KPIs matter or what they should be focused on, you're actually focused on delivering a consistent and coherent experience. And competitive advantage, because journey-led organizations adopt faster than function-led ones, is real, right? These aren't soft outcomes. This is the metrics that your CFO cares about. And they're actually like, if you think about it, that's why I put them on level 5, the downstream effect of getting levels 1 through 4 right. So let's put it all together. The big idea here is that the customer journey isn't an artifact your CX team makes once a year and then puts in a drawer somewhere. It's actually the part of that makes the operating system works, right? For your entire customer-facing organization. When you're placing the journey at the center, a single source of truth, your evidence has somewhere to live. Your metrics have context. And then meaning becomes clear. Your teams connect and your business results will naturally follow. And the reason the most CX initiatives stall is not a lack of effort, and it isn't a lack of data. It's that the data, the teams, the work, and are basically organized around internal structures, departments, tools, plans. And instead of around an external reality of how the customer actually is experiencing all these touch points of your brand, all these interactions with your product. And if you flip it, things got a lot easier. But I think like what journey maps have done in recent years, or like in the last decade or so, was actually trying to solve it for people. But now I'm actually showing you how to apply it to your data and actually get a fundamental structure in place for your organization, which is extremely useful for your people, but also for your agents, for your AI, because it can reason over meaning, over the ontology, to use a more fancy word, that you've actually created. It's not just like, how is our data organized? No. It's like, what is the meaning? How these data are related to each other. If this resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe for more frameworks like this one. I'm experimenting with it, and please let me know in the comments how you think about this, and also like, where does friction live in your business? Like, at what level does it sit?